My mother handed me a white index card 10 minutes before my brother's rehearsal dinner. She had written my toast in blue ink. The first line said, "Lucy taught us that every day should be a celebration." Lucy was my daughter. She had been gone for 3 years. The money paying for the flowers, the band, and half the ballroom had been donated in her memory. I looked past my mother at 6 tall arrangements of white roses. Each one cost more than a month of parking and meals during Lucy's treatment. Then I looked down at the cream cloth ledger under my arm. It held every donor's name, every promised dollar, and every reason people had trusted us. $31,400 were missing. Mom smiled and tapped the card. "Keep it warm," she said. "No one needs grief tonight." What she did not know was that I had already moved the remaining money beyond her reach. She also did not know the venue's final payment had failed that morning. In less than an hour, she expected me to stand beneath a chandelier bought with my child's name and thank her for bringing our family joy. I was going to stand up. I was going to speak, but I was not going to read her card. Before I tell you how we reached that room, think about this. Does grief give a family the right to spend a child's memory, or does it make that memory more sacred? My name is Emily Hart. I'm 37 and live outside Knoxville, Tennessee, where I work as a radiologic technologist at a children's hospital. I've spent most of my adult life helping scared children hold still for pictures no parent wants them to need. My husband, Ben, is an electrician. He is patient with wires, storms, and people who talk around the truth. We met when I was 23. We married 2 years later. Lucy came along when I was 28, with dark hair, serious gray eyes, and a cry that sounded offended by the whole world. For 4 years, our life was ordinary: daycare, laundry, Saturday pancakes. Lucy wore rain boots in dry weather and called every bird a robin. She believed Band-Aids fixed furniture. She slept with a stuffed blue rabbit named Button and carried him by one ear. Then she started bruising, and at first the bruises looked like playground bruises. There was a purple mark on her shin and a smaller one near her elbow. Then she began waking tired, and she stopped asking for pancakes. One Tuesday, she fell asleep at the kitchen table before dinner. I knew enough from work to be afraid, and I also knew enough to avoid saying the word. Ben took her to our pediatrician while I was on shift. By the time I reached the clinic, a nurse was waiting with a wheelchair. Lucy had leukemia, and that sentence divided our life into before and after. It also turned my mother into the most useful person in the room. Carol had retired from her job as an elementary school secretary the year before. She knew forms, schedules, and how to make strangers answer the phone. She drove Lucy to appointments when Ben and I could not leave work, and she labeled freezer meals. She kept a calendar on our refrigerator with 4 colors of ink, and my younger brother, Ryan, helped too. He cut our grass. He fixed the loose step on the porch. He made Lucy laugh by wearing her plastic crown during video calls. Back then, I believed illness had burned the old family habits out of us. Those habits had been there for years, and Ryan was 5 years younger than me. He had always needed one more chance, one more loan, one more explanation. When he wrecked Dad's truck at 17, Mom said he had been distracted. When I came home 10 minutes late, she took my keys for a week. When Ryan left community college after 1 semester, Mom called him practical. When I finished my imaging program with honors, she asked whether the hospital would make me work holidays. She loved us both. I still believe that, but her love for Ryan arrived with a rescue plan, and her love for me arrived with a list. "Emily can handle it," was the sentence of my childhood. It sounded like praise. It often meant no one was coming. During Lucy's treatment, I stopped noticing the difference. Mom was there. That mattered. She sat beside me during long infusions and brought coffee that tasted like burnt wood. She learned which parking deck stayed open late. She washed Button twice after Lucy got sick on him. I let myself trust her in a new way, and Lucy responded well at first. Her blood counts improved. Her hair fell out in soft, dark strands, then returned lighter. She spent 8 months moving between our house and the hospital. Some weeks, we almost felt normal, and the Child Life team made those weeks possible. A woman named Nora ran the program. She kept art supplies in rolling carts and could explain a blood draw without making it sound like a threat. She brought Lucy a blue ribbon after every difficult procedure. Not a prize, just proof that the hard thing had ended. Lucy tied those ribbons around Button's neck. By the end of treatment, the rabbit looked like he was dressed for a parade. Lucy rang the end-of-treatment bell on a Friday morning, and everyone clapped. Ben cried into my hair. Mom recorded the whole thing on her phone, even after a nurse asked her to lower it. Ryan brought a cake with blue icing and spelled remission wrong. For 6 months, we built ordinary life again, and Lucy returned to kindergarten. She carried Button in her backpack for the first week. She complained about peas, and she learned to read the word elephant. I started sleeping for more than 4 hours at a time. Then a routine blood test came back wrong. The leukemia had returned. It was faster this time. The doctors changed medicines. They used careful voices, and Nora stopped promising Lucy that she would feel better soon. She promised only that she would not be alone, and our family filled the hallways again. Mom made schedules. Ryan brought food, and Ben and I learned to recognize bad news before anyone spoke. Lucy died on a rainy morning in March. She was 6 years old, and there are details I can tell and details I cannot. I can tell you that Ben held her left hand, and I held her right. I can tell you Button was under her arm. I can tell you Nora tied one last blue ribbon around his neck. I cannot tell you what the room sounded like after the monitor went quiet. My mind closed that door. The funeral home asked what color flowers we wanted, and I said blue because it was the only answer I had. People sent lilies, cards, casseroles, and money. So much money arrived that I stopped opening envelopes. Some donors wrote that they wanted to help with medical bills. Others asked us to use the money for children like Lucy. A teacher from her school enclosed $20 and wrote, "Please buy another child a brave ribbon." That note broke me open. Ben and I had insurance, and we still owed money, but we could manage it. Other families on Lucy's floor were choosing between parking fees and groceries. The Child Life program had one old cart for 3 units. Parents slept in vinyl chairs without a quiet place to breathe. I told Ben I wanted the donations to build a family respite room. He said yes before I finished, and Mom took the idea and gave it shape. She called the hospital foundation. She found out how much a small room would cost. She spoke to our church, Lucy's school, and Ryan's landscaping customers. Within 2 weeks, she had a name. We called it the Lucy Hart Memorial Room Fund, though it was not a private foundation. It was a community fundraiser with a separate bank account and a written agreement with the hospital foundation. We set a goal of $50,000. When we reached it, the money would go straight to the hospital for a quiet room, meal vouchers, and a new Child Life cart. The hospital could have collected the money directly, and that would have been cleaner. People were already sending checks to our house, and Mom said families trusted families. We opened a separate checking account. My name came first. Mom was added as a second signer because I could barely answer email. Ben agreed. He thought her help was keeping me alive, and the donation ledger came from Lucy's school librarian. It was cloth-covered, the color of the ribbons Nora had given her, and every donor's name went inside. So did the amount, the date, and any note they wanted preserved. A strip of ribbon from Button's neck marked the current page. Mom wrote the first entry, Ben's parents, $500. I wrote the second. Lucy's kindergarten class, $312.46. The children had emptied piggy banks and sold paper flowers. Their teacher delivered the money in a plastic sandwich bag, and coins filled the bottom. A tiny folded note said, "For a room where moms can cry." I pressed that note between 2 ledger pages, and that book became more than a record. It was a promise. Every line meant someone had trusted us with grief, hope, or both. For the first year, I could not manage much, and I attended planning meetings, then forgot what people said. I stood at the first blue ribbon walk while 300 people passed beneath an arch of balloons. Mom ran everything. She handled deposits and she paid the permit fee. She ordered shirts. She sent me monthly summaries with neat columns and highlighted totals. I opened the first two, then I stopped, and that was my mistake. Grief had made numbers feel dangerous. Every total looked like a measurement of how much Lucy mattered. I knew that was not rational. I also knew I could not breathe when I saw her name beside a dollar sign. So I gave Mom the bank password too. I gave her the debit card, and I signed blank reimbursement forms for approved event costs. I told myself it was temporary, and Ben asked whether we should keep closer watch. Mom would never touch Lucy's money, I said. He did not argue, and he had watched Carol sleep in hospital chairs. He had seen her wash button, and trusting her did not feel careless then. Trusting her felt like recognizing what she had earned, especially when the first walk raised almost $11,000 after expenses. The school added a fall craft sale, and Ryan's company sponsored a water station. A local grocery store matched one weekend of donations. By the first anniversary of Lucy's death, the account held $16,800. The hospital installed a small plaque in the child life office. It did not claim the room existed yet. It simply thanked the community for working toward it, and Mom stood beside me during the ceremony. "We're going to finish this," she whispered. I believed we meant the same thing. The second year was harder in a different way, and people stopped checking on us every week. Soon they checked only once a month, while life resumed around our careful, strange house. Ben returned to full-time work, and I went back to the imaging department. On my first day, a little girl arrived wearing blue rain boots. I locked myself in a supply closet and cried into a stack of clean towels. Nora found me there. "You don't have to prove anything today," she said. I told her I had already used all my leave. "That isn't what I meant." She helped me transfer to outpatient imaging for 6 months, where I faced fewer emergencies. There were fewer rooms that smelled like Lucy's last week, and that small act kept me in my profession. At home, Ben and I grieved in opposite directions. I needed quiet. He needed projects. He rebuilt the back steps, painted the garage, and repaired a fence that was not broken. Some nights, we sat at the kitchen table without speaking. We did not become stronger because our child died, and I hate when people say that. We became practiced at carrying something heavy without dropping everything else. Mom remained busy with the fund, and busy was her safest emotion. She planned the second walk, added a silent auction, and talked a local radio host into mentioning Lucy's name. She brought me forms to sign and summaries to initial. I signed them. Ryan's life also moved forward, and his landscaping company finally became steady. He hired 2 employees and bought a used trailer. He started dating Megan, a dental hygienist with a quick laugh and a habit of sending handwritten thank you notes. I liked her immediately, and Megan never spoke about Lucy as if she had become an idea. She asked what cartoons Lucy loved, and she remembered that Button had one bent ear. On Lucy's second birthday after her death, Megan left a small pot of blue flowers on our porch and did not ring the bell. Ryan proposed 6 months later. Mom called me before he did. "He finally found the right girl," she said. I heard the pride in her voice, and it was bright and uncomplicated. I wanted that for Ryan. I did, but I also felt the old family scale tilt beneath my feet, and Mom started planning before Megan chose a date. She toured venues. She made a binder. She joined 3 wedding groups online and learned words like tablescape. Ryan and Megan wanted a spring wedding with about 80 guests. Mom wanted 200 guests, saying our family needed something happy. She said Dad's death had been hard, Lucy's death had been impossible, and the last few years had been all hospitals and memorials. Dad had died from a sudden heart attack the year after Lucy. His loss hurt. But it also left Mom alone with too much time and a paid-off house. The wedding became her answer to everything. At Sunday lunch, she showed us pictures of a hotel ballroom near the river. White columns, gold chairs, a ceiling full of glass lights. Megan looked uneasy. "It's beautiful, but it's more than we planned." Mom waved that away. "You only do this once." Ryan laughed. "That's the goal." Ben asked what the venue cost. Mom changed the subject. Later, I found her in my kitchen measuring the width of the doorway with her eyes. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Thinking about a bridal shower. Megan's sister offered to host. She lives in an apartment. So, Mom gave me the look she used when I had missed something obvious. This family has had enough small rooms." I knew then that the wedding was not about Ryan and Megan. Not entirely. It was about Mom proving that our family could still fill a beautiful space and look untouched by loss. That desire was human. The way she pursued it was not. The second blue ribbon walk raised another $13,000. We were past $30,000 by summer. The hospital foundation approved preliminary plans for a small respite room near pediatric oncology. Nora showed me the sketch. There was a couch, a sink, 2 soft chairs, and a cabinet for meal vouchers. One wall held a simple blue stripe. No butterflies, no inspirational quote, just a quiet place where parents could close a door. I touched the paper and imagined the mother who would sit there. The room made the fund real again, and I began opening Mom's summaries. The totals looked steady. Deposits matched the public tracker, and expenses were reasonable. She had kept excellent records. Mom did not start with a theft. Her betrayal began as a request while we sat at her house one Sunday afternoon. Wedding magazines covered the coffee table. The donation ledger sat beside my purse because I had brought it for a donor entry. Mom poured tea and said, "I have an idea that could honor Lucy at the wedding." My whole body tightened. She explained that the ballroom package included a charity table. Instead of favors, guests could donate to the memorial fund. A framed picture of Lucy could sit there with blue ribbons. I said no. Not harshly. Not at first. "Lucy doesn't need a table at Ryan's wedding," I said. "Let the wedding be theirs." Mom frowned. "Megan liked the idea." I looked at Megan. She stared at her hands. Ryan said, "Mom already ordered the ribbon cards." "Then return them." The room went still. Mom leaned back. "I thought you would be grateful that we still include her." I felt the old sentence waiting for me. "Emily can handle it." "I don't need Lucy included everywhere," I said. "I need her money used for the room." Mom's mouth became a thin line. No one said otherwise. That should have ended it. Instead, she reached for the donation ledger and opened it to the current total. $42,000 already, she said. "You're close." "We're not close until the hospital has it." She looked up at me and something moved across her face, then vanished. "You have become very rigid," she said. I took the ledger from her. "No, I have become specific." For the next 2 months, Mom behaved as if that conversation had never happened. Every question carried the same message. We were moving forward, and I was expected to move with everyone else. I tried. I went dress shopping with Megan and her sister. I helped address invitations and agreed to make a small photo display for Dad because he would have loved seeing Ryan married. I did not include Lucy. Megan thanked me in the parking lot. "I told Carol I didn't want to use Lucy as wedding decor," she said. The bluntness surprised me. Did she listen? She said I was afraid of difficult emotions. I laughed once. It had no humor in it. Megan touched my arm. "I'm sorry." That was when I realized she was not controlling this wedding. Mom was. Ryan knew it too. He just enjoyed the benefits. Whenever Megan objected to a cost, Mom said she had it covered. Whenever Ryan worried, she told him not to ruin his fiancé's experience. The guest list grew. The flowers, band, and menu grew too, so I asked Ryan privately how much Mom was spending. He shrugged. "She won't tell me." "That does not bother you. She has savings." "Do you know that?" His expression changed. Not much, just enough. She wants to do this. Wanting had always been Mom's cleanest excuse for him, and I told him to make sure the money was hers. Whose else would it be? The third blue ribbon walk happened in early September, and it was our largest one. More than 400 people came. A local roofing company covered the permits and shirts, which meant almost every donation could remain in the fund. Mom worked the registration table. I saw her accept cash, count it twice, and write each amount in the donation ledger. Her handwriting was as neat as it had been when I was a child. That night, we counted the total at my kitchen table, and Ben made coffee. Nora joined by video call from the hospital. The account should have reached $49,800. We were $200 short of our goal, and Mom clapped both hands over her mouth. She was crying. "We did it," she said. "Almost," I corrected. "Oh, Emily, we promised 50. Ben rested one hand on my shoulder. "We can add the rest." I shook my head. "Someone will. Let the community finish it." 3 days later, an envelope arrived from Lucy's old teacher. Inside was a check for $200, and her note said the kindergarten class had been saving again. I called Nora. "We reached it." She cried. I cried. Ben cried when I told him, and even Ryan cried when I showed him the note. Mom hugged me in her driveway. "Now the room is real," she said. The hospital foundation scheduled the first transfer for $20,000. The rest would follow after final construction estimates. Mom offered to deliver the check herself, and I said I wanted to do it. She agreed too quickly, and the meeting was set for a Thursday morning in October. Nora reserved a conference room. A hospital photographer would take one simple picture for the foundation newsletter. Ben moved a job so he could attend, and Mom canceled the night before. She said she had a stomach virus. She also said the checkbook was locked in the small safe at her house, and she could not remember where she had put the key. I offered to come find it. "No," she said, "you cannot be around me if I'm sick. I work in a hospital." That is different. I should have driven over, but instead I let her reschedule the meeting for the next week. Then the next week became the following Monday because she said the bank needed to correct the account title. I called the bank. The title had not changed, and when I asked Mom about it, she sounded offended. "I may have misunderstood the teller. You worked with bank records for years." "I worked at a school. You know what an account title is." She went quiet, then she used grief. "I have carried this fund for you since Lucy died," she said. "I have done every ugly little task you could not bear to do. Now you are questioning one delayed check." The words hit exactly where she aimed because she really had carried the fund. That part was true. "I'm not accusing you," I said. "You are making me feel accused. I just need the check. You will have it Monday." I apologized. That apology was my second mistake. On Monday, Nora called me at work. I was between patients. A little boy was arguing with his father about whether the scanner looked like a spaceship. Nora's voice was careful. "Emily, the memorial check was returned." I leaned against the wall. "What check?" "The memorial fund check. Carol dropped it at the foundation office Friday afternoon. She told me Monday. It came Friday. Why was it returned?" Insufficient funds. For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood the phrase. There should be almost $50,000. I know. How much was the check? $20,000. The hallway seemed to narrow around me, and Nora said my name twice. "I'm here," I told her, but I was not really. I was back in Lucy's hospital room. I was holding one small hand while a monitor stopped making sense. I was staring at a blue ribbon tied around a rabbit's neck. "Do not call my mother yet," I said. "I won't. Do not call anyone. Emily, the foundation has to document the return check. I understand. Give me an hour." I went into an empty reading room and locked the door, and the bank app rejected my password. I tried again. Rejected. I requested a reset link, and the link went to an email address I did not recognize. That was the moment fear became knowledge, and Mom had changed the login information. I called the bank from the locked room. The representative asked security questions Mom could not have changed. My first address. She asked for our opening deposit and the last 4 letters of Lucy's school mascot. Then she told me the fact that made my face go cold. The account was joint. I knew that. I had signed the papers. But grief had softened the meaning, and joint meant Mom had the same legal access I did. She could change online settings, and she could write checks. She could move money without my approval. After restoring my access, the representative read the balance. The balance was $18,600, and I asked her to repeat it. She did. $31,400 were gone. The transactions appeared one by one, starting with $8,000 to the Riverside Hotel. $6,200 went to a caterer, and $4,800 went to a florist. $3,500 to a band. $2,400 went to a bridal shop, and the rest had gone to smaller vendors. Every payment had been made from the Lucy Hart Memorial Room Fund. I did not cry. I became very still. There are moments when grief feels hot. This did not. Standing there felt like stepping onto winter tile. I downloaded every statement. I saved them to my work computer, my personal email, and a flash drive. Then I called Ben. He answered on the first ring. What happened? He knew from my silence. I told him the amount. He said nothing for several seconds. Then he asked, "Where are you?" "At work." "I'm coming." "No, finish the job you're on." "Emily." "I need 1 hour where no one touches me." He understood that sentence, and he said he would meet me at home. My next call was to Mom. She answered cheerfully. "Are you feeling better?" I asked. A pause. "Much." "Good, I'm coming over." "I have errands." "Cancel them." She heard the warning in my voice. "What is this about?" "The return check." Silence, then a sigh, not shock, not confusion, a sigh. "I can explain. Be at home." I left work after telling my supervisor there was a family emergency. That phrase was true. It was also smaller than the truth, and Mom's car was in her driveway when I arrived. Ryan's truck was not. I had hoped he would be there, and I had also hoped he would not. The front door was unlocked. Mom sat at the dining table with a yellow folder in front of her. 2 cups of tea waited between us. She had prepared the room like a meeting, and I remained standing. "Where is the money?" She folded her hands. "Sit down. Where is it?" "You saw the statements?" "I want to hear you say it." Her chin lifted. "I used part of the account for wedding deposits." "Lucy's account." "The family account." "No, say its name." She looked away. I put the donation ledger on the table, and the ribbon marker fell across the last donor page. "Say the name on the checks." Her voice dropped. "The Lucy Hart Memorial Room Fund." The words landed between us, and I opened the ledger to the goal page. $50,000, reached in blue ink, dated, signed by both of us. "You took $31,400. I moved it. To a hotel. Temporarily. To flowers. Emily, please. To a band. The wedding gifts will replace a large part of it." I stared at her, and she kept talking because silence had stopped protecting her. "Ryan's business had a slow summer. Megan's parents cannot contribute much, and your father left me comfortable but not rich. The deposits came due all at once. So you stole from dead children." Her face changed. "Do not say that." "Then tell me which living child gave you permission." "This was raised in Lucy's name. Most of it came from people who love this family. It came for a hospital room. The room can wait." I could not believe how easily she said it. "Parents are waiting now." "And Ryan is getting married now." There it was, the family scale. The old family scale was polished and still tilted, so I sat down when my knees began to shake. Mom reached for my hand. I pulled it away. "You do not understand what this wedding means," she said. "We have had 3 years of death, your father, Lucy. Every holiday feels like a memorial. Ryan gave us a reason to come together. He gave you a wedding. He gave us joy. With money donated because my daughter died." Her eyes filled. "Lucy would not want us frozen forever." I felt the room disappear around that sentence. Do not tell me what she would want. I was her grandmother. You were also the person I trusted. I have not spent a cent on myself. That was her defense, and she had not bought a car or taken a vacation. She had spent the money on Ryan, which made it noble in her mind. You changed the password, because I knew you would panic before I could explain. You wrote a check that bounced. The hotel processed a deposit earlier than promised. You did not borrow money, you hid missing money. She opened the yellow folder, and inside was a typed repayment plan. It had no signature. The first payment was scheduled 3 months after the wedding. The final payment was 2 years away. Mom slid it toward me. I have a plan. I did not touch it. Whose money makes the payments? Wedding gifts, my monthly income, Ryan's business when it improves. So the donors wait 2 years while Ryan gets gold chairs next month. The chairs are included. I almost laughed. That detail was so absurd that it made the whole betrayal sharper. You know the package that well. I am trying to give my son one good day. You gave him $31,400 that was not yours. Her tears came then, real tears. That mattered, but not enough. You still have a husband, she said. You still have a home. Ryan has never had anything come easily. I stood. Lucy died. Mom flinched. Do not compare them. You did. I picked up the ledger. She grabbed the edge. Please do not tell Ryan yet. I looked at her hand on my daughter's book. Let go. Give me 48 hours. For what? To fix it. You had months. I can call the vendors. I can move things around. Can you put $31,400 back by Thursday? Her fingers loosened. No, then there is nothing to fix quietly. She stood too. If you expose this now, you will destroy your brother's wedding. I tucked the ledger under my arm. No, Mom, you used his wedding to destroy Lucy's fund. I left before she could answer. Ben was waiting in our driveway, and he opened my car door and saw the ledger under my arm. He did not ask whether the bank had made a mistake, and he knew my mother too well for that. Inside, I spread the statements across our kitchen table, and Ben read each vendor name. His jaw tightened at the florist, and it tightened again at the band. When he reached the champagne wall, he pushed his chair back. That is enough. I need to call Ryan. You need to close that account today. Both. Close it first. He was right. I called the bank again. Because the account was joint, I could withdraw the remaining balance. I could not remove Mom's legal access while keeping the joint account open. I also could not label her settled transfers as ordinary card fraud. The bank representative said the cleanest option was to close it in person. Ben drove me. I carried the ledger into the branch like evidence from a fire. The manager reviewed our identification, the account agreement, and the pending charges. 2 new charges were waiting, and one was for the rehearsal dinner. The other was a final floral payment, and I asked her to stop both. She could stop the pending electronic drafts because they had not settled. She could not reverse completed payments without a dispute and vendor cooperation. We closed the account. The bank issued a cashier's check for the remaining $18,600. I made it payable to the hospital foundation. Mom's card stopped working before we left the parking lot. My phone rang. I let it ring. Then it rang again. On the 3rd call, I answered. What did you do? Mom demanded. I protected what was left. The rehearsal dinner payment was declined. Good. Do you know how humiliating that is? Do you know why the card had Lucy's name on it? Her breathing changed. I was going to replace everything. You were about to take more. I told you I needed 48 hours. I did not give them to you. You walked out. That was not consent. She lowered her voice. Ryan is here. Put me on speaker. A rustle. Then Ryan said my name. He sounded confused, not angry yet. Mom says you froze the wedding money. The wedding money came from Lucy's memorial fund. Silence. Then, what? $31,400. That is not possible. I have the statements. Mom said she moved some family savings. Ask her which account. I heard him turn away from the phone. "Mom!" Her answer was too soft to catch. Ryan came back louder. "You knew she was helping with the wedding." "I knew she was using her money." "She said the fund was temporary." "So you knew?" "No." I knew there was a fund. I did not know which fund. The distinction mattered. It did not clear him. "Did you see Lucy's name on any check?" He did not answer. That answer mattered more. "Ryan, the venue receipt had an account name. I thought it was just how Mom labeled it. You saw it. I did not understand." "You did not ask." Mom cut in. "Stop interrogating him." I closed my eyes, and even now she moved between us to protect him. Ryan said, Can we meet tonight?" Ben shook his head, and I looked at the cashier's check in my lap. "Tomorrow morning, you and Megan, not Mom." Mom protested. I ended the call. That night, I did not sleep. I opened the donation ledger at our kitchen table and read every note. A nurse had donated $50 in memory of her own son. A construction crew had given $800 after their foreman's niece finished treatment. Lucy's old bus driver had sent $25 each Christmas. The smallest entry was $3.18. A child named Ava had sold bracelets at a yard sale. Her note said, "Lucy was nice when I was new." Mom had turned those lines into centerpieces. Ask yourself what is worse, taking the money or using a child's memory to make the theft sound loving? At 2 a.m, Ben found me reading the ledger. "You cannot carry every donor tonight," he said. I told them we would build a room. "You will." "With what?" "With the truth first." I leaned against him. "I gave her access. You gave your mother a task. I gave her the password. Because your daughter had just died." I stopped checking. Because looking at Lucy's name hurt. Those are reasons. They are not permission. I wanted that sentence to solve my guilt. It did not. But it gave me enough room to think, and the next morning, Ryan and Megan came to our house. Megan looked sick. Ryan looked angry. I put the statements on the table. I did not soften them. The first hotel deposit had been made 4 months earlier, and the florist came next. Then came the band, dress, rentals, and cake. Mom had been spending the fund while showing me summaries based on old balances. The summaries were false. Ryan read without speaking. Megan covered her mouth when she reached the bridal shop charge. "My dress?" she asked. I nodded. She turned to Ryan. "You told me your mother paid for it." "That is what she told me. But you saw the account name." He rubbed both hands over his face. "One receipt." I saw one receipt. "And you did not ask," I said. His shame became anger because anger was easier. "What do you want me to do? Cancel everything." "I want the money returned. The deposits are non-refundable. Then you repay them." "My business cannot absorb that. The hospital fund already absorbed it." Megan stood and walked to the window, and her shoulders were shaking. Ryan looked at me. "We are 10 days from the wedding. I know. People are flying in. I know. Mom has invited everyone she has ever met. That was her choice." He hit the table with his palm. "Not hard, hard enough. Lucy was my niece." "Then say her name without asking me to pay for your wedding." His face collapsed. Megan turned around. "We cut it," she said. Ryan stared at her. "We cut everything we can, today." Megan. "No, Emily is right." Mom had chosen the grand version. Megan had never wanted it, and that became obvious in the next 10 minutes. She called the florist and reduced the order, and she canceled the champagne wall. She asked the band about switching to a shorter set, and she called the hotel and requested a smaller room. Some deposits were gone, and some could be applied to a simpler package. Some vendors offered partial refunds after learning the source of the money. Ryan sat with his head down. At last, he said, "I can sell the second mower." It was not enough, but it was the first thing he offered that belonged to him. I gave them until noon to produce a written list of refunds and repayment dates. That was my mistake. I wanted to believe a private correction could protect Megan from public shame. I wanted Ryan to choose responsibility without being forced. I wanted one clean thing to survive, and while they made calls, Mom made calls too. By 11, my aunt had left a voicemail, and by 11:15, a cousin texted that grief had made me cruel. At noon, Mom sent a message to the family group. She wrote that I had frozen wedding funds after a misunderstanding. She said the memorial account had always been intended to support the whole family. She said Ryan had stood beside us during Lucy's illness and deserved the same support now. Then she wrote the sentence that changed my plan. Lucy would have wanted her uncle to begin his marriage surrounded by beauty. Mom was not trying to correct the theft, and she was rewriting the promise. I called Mom. She did not answer. I drove to her house. She had locked the door. Through the front window, I saw wedding boxes stacked beside the stairs. One box held white ribbon and another held small gold frames. My mother moved behind them, saw me, and turned off the hall light. That was the moment compromise ended, and I went to the hospital foundation with Ben. Nora met us in a small office near the lobby. The returned check lay in a clear folder on her desk. I gave her the cashier's check for $18,600. "This is everything that remained," I said. She did not reach for it right away. "What happened?" I told her. Her eyes closed at the amount, then she asked the practical questions. Were the donors informed? Was the account closed? Did Mom still have access to the online fundraiser? Were any automatic deposits still active? I had answers for only 2 of those, and Nora helped me call the fundraising platform. We removed Mom as an administrator, and future donations were redirected to the hospital foundation. The public page received a plain update stating that all new funds would be held by the hospital. We did not accuse anyone online. Not yet. The foundation's attorney told us to preserve records and avoid promises about recovery. He said joint accounts were messy, donor representations mattered, and facts had to come before anger. I made copies of the donation ledger. Every page, every note, every total. Then I emailed each donor for whom we had contact information. The message was short. I said there had been an unauthorized use of memorial funds by a family account signer. I said the remaining balance was secure. I said the hospital foundation now controlled all future donations. I promised a full accounting when vendor refunds were confirmed. I did not name Mom. She named herself. Within an hour, she posted a long message about private family decisions. She said money was replaceable, but family moments were not. She said grief had made some people lose perspective. People knew who she meant, and the comments did not go the way she expected. Lucy's teacher wrote, "The class donated for the room." A nurse wrote, "Memorial money is not a wedding loan." The roofing company asked for a formal accounting, and Mom deleted the post. Ryan called that evening. He and Megan had reduced the wedding to 90 guests, and the hotel moved them into a smaller ballroom. The band agreed to become a disc jockey package, and most of the flower order was canceled. They recovered $6,700, and Ryan sold the mower for $5,000. Megan returned the designer dress and bought a simpler one from a local shop. The bridal shop refunded part of the payment after she explained. Their total repayment reached $14,200. $17,200 remained missing, and Ryan signed a repayment agreement with monthly dates. Megan signed as a witness, not a debtor. I kept Megan off the debt, while Mom refused to sign anything. She said she had already contributed years of unpaid work to the fund. She called that contribution valuable. It was valuable, and it was also not permission to take the account. 3 days before the wedding, she came to our house, and Ben opened the door but did not invite her in. Mom held a garment bag and a white envelope. "I need to speak to Emily." I stood behind him. "You can speak from there." Her face tightened. "Are you really going to do this in the doorway?" "Yes." She handed me the envelope, and inside was a printed schedule for the rehearsal dinner. My name appeared beside family toast. "I still want you there," she said. "Why?" Because you are still Ryan's sister. That did not matter when you spent the fund. It matters now, I laughed once. She flinched as if I had shouted. The family is divided, she said. Your presence will calm everyone. You want me to make this look resolved. I want one evening without accusation. You posted about me. I was emotional. You used Lucy's name again. Her eyes filled. I miss her too. I believed that. My mother had loved Lucy, and she had also learned to use that love as a shield. You can miss her and still be wrong, I said. Mom lifted the garment bag, and inside was a navy dress she had bought for me. The toast is barely 2 minutes long. I am not reading anything you write. You can use your own words. That surprised me. Then she added, just keep it about joy. There it was. I took the schedule. Ben studied my face after she left. You are not going. I think I am. Why? Because she is counting on my silence. He studied my face. What are you planning? The truth, in the smallest room that still needs to hear it. I did not want strangers filming a breakdown, and I did not want to ruin Megan's wedding. I did not want revenge dressed as accountability, so I set limits. The rehearsal dinner would include immediate family, the wedding party, and a few close friends. Nora had been invited months earlier because Mom wanted the hospital connection in the room. She was still attending for Megan, who had called her personally. I asked Nora to bring the returned check. I asked Ryan to bring the signed repayment agreement, and I brought the donation ledger. Mom brought my toast. The Riverside Hotel sat beside the river with white columns and a wide glass entrance. Mom had chosen it because she said photographs mattered. That evening, rain streaked the windows and turned every light outside into a blur. The rehearsal itself was quiet, and Megan wore jeans and held Ryan's hand. She looked relieved when the coordinator explained the smaller reception plan. Ryan nodded at each reduction, and Mom stood behind them with her mouth set. The gold chairs were gone, and standard hotel chairs had replaced them. The champagne wall never arrived, and half the flowers had been redirected to another event. Each missing luxury was visible, and Mom noticed me carrying the ledger. You did not need to bring that, she whispered. I did. Nora arrived a few minutes later, and she held a clear folder against her coat. Mom saw it and looked away, and dinner was served in a private room with 3 round tables. The wedding party filled 2, and family and close friends filled the 3rd. Ben sat beside me, and Nora sat across from us. Mom had placed the white index card at my setting, and I turned it face down. For most of dinner, no one mentioned the fund, and forks touched plates. People discussed rain, traffic, and the ceremony, and the silence felt organized. Ryan tried to thank everyone for adjusting to the smaller plans. Mom interrupted. We are not calling it smaller, she said. We are calling it intimate. Megan looked at her plate. Ryan continued. He thanked people for coming. He thanked Megan's parents, then he thanked Mom for giving them the wedding. I watched his face as he said it, and he knew the sentence was not true. Mom smiled anyway, and after dessert, she stood and tapped her glass. The room quieted. She spoke first, and she talked about hard years. She talked about Dad, and she talked about how families survive by choosing joy. None of those thoughts were wrong, then she used Lucy. My granddaughter taught us how precious every celebration is, she said. I know she is with us tonight. Ben's hand closed around mine. Nora lowered her eyes, and Mom turned toward me with a soft smile. And now Lucy's mother, my daughter Emily, would like to say a few words. Polite applause moved through the room. I stood. The donation ledger felt heavy in my hands. I looked at Ryan, then Megan, then Mom. Mom lifted the index card and offered it to me, and I did not take it. I was given a toast to read tonight, I said. The first line says Lucy taught us that every day should be a celebration. Mom's smile held. That is true, she said. No, that is useful. The room went silent. I opened the ledger. This book contains the names of people who donated to build a respite room at the Children's Hospital. Some gave hundreds. Some gave coins. Every one of them was told the same thing. I read the sentence from the goal page. Every dollar after approved event costs will go toward the Lucy Hart Memorial Room. Mom moved toward me. Emily, this is not the time. It became the time when you put my name beside a toast. She stopped. I told the room the total, $50,000. Then I told them what happened. $31,400 were transferred from the memorial account to wedding vendors. Someone near the back gasped. Mom's face went white. Ryan stood. Emily, I think everyone knows there was a mistake. I looked at him. A mistake is paying the florist twice. This took 4 months. He sat down. Mom reached for the ledger. I stepped back. Do not use that book against me. I am using it for what it was made to do. Keep the record. She turned to the room. I managed that fund for 3 years. I raised most of the money myself. Nora spoke for the first time. You organized the work. The donors gave the money. Mom's eyes snapped toward her. This is a family matter. Nora placed the clear folder on the table. It stopped being private when a memorial check was returned. She slid the check toward me. I held it up. The first hospital payment failed because the account had $18,600 left. Mom's voice rose. And that money is safe now, because I closed the account. Murmurs moved through the room, and Mom looked at me as if I had betrayed her. You closed Lucy's fund? I ended your access. The fund now goes directly through the hospital foundation. I removed the permanent transfer agreement from the ledger's back pocket. Nora and the foundation's director had already signed, and my signature line remained blank. Mom saw it. You cannot do this without discussing it with me. I can. My name created the fund. The hospital agreement names me as the family representative. I did all the work. You also spent the money. Her hands began to shake. You have no idea what I sacrificed. I know exactly what you gave. I thanked you for it. It did not buy ownership. Ryan stood again. Can we finish this tomorrow? No, Mom said. She wants an audience. I looked around the small room. I wanted a private repayment. You sent the family a public lie. I tried to protect your brother. From what? From losing everything 10 days before his wedding. I turned to Ryan. You were not losing everything. You were losing upgrades. His face reddened. Mom moved between us. Those deposits were gone. The plans were made. Guests were invited. What was I supposed to do? Use your money. I did not have enough. Then choose a wedding you could afford. Her mouth opened, closed. I placed copies of the statements beside the ledger, and vendor names were highlighted. So were the dates. Mom pointed at them. I was borrowing it. No loan was approved. I had a repayment plan. You created it after the check bounced. I would have replaced the money. When? When the family recovered. Which family? She stared at me. I answered for her. Ryan first, Lucy later. That is cruel. It is the order you chose. Tears ran down her face, and for 1 weak second I wanted to stop. She was my mother. She had held me after we lost Lucy. She had washed Button, and she had built the first walk from nothing. Then she spoke again. Your daughter would have wanted this family to celebrate. The room disappeared. I could see Lucy in blue rain boots and Lucy asleep at the kitchen table. I saw Lucy tying ribbons around a rabbit's neck, and I knew she was not an argument. She was not a permission slip, and I set both hands on the ledger. She was not your wedding budget. No one moved. Mom whispered, I loved her. I know. Then how can you say that to me? Because loving her did not give you the right to spend her name. She looked toward Ryan for rescue. He did not move. She looked toward Ben. He stared back. At last, she looked at Nora. Nora's voice was gentle. Carol, the room was promised to families who are still sitting in those hallways. Mom sat down, her shoulders folded. The anger left her face, and for the first time, I saw the fear beneath it. I could not stand another small sad thing, she said. That was the closest she came to the truth, and Dad's funeral had been small. Lucy's funeral had been blue and quiet. The memorial meetings happened in plain rooms with folding chairs. Mom had wanted chandeliers, music, and proof that death had not reduced us. I understood. I did not excuse her. You were allowed to want joy, I said. You were not allowed to invoice Lucy for it. Mom covered her face. Ryan stepped beside her. He looked at me. I knew enough to ask, he said. I did not ask. It was the first full truth he had offered, and he placed the repayment agreement on the table. I sold the mower. Megan returned the dress. We recovered what we could. I will repay the rest. Mom lowered her hands. You returned the dress. Megan answered from her seat, yes, but it was perfect. It was purchased with memorial money. It was your wedding dress. It was Lucy's hospital room. Mom stared at her. Then the private room door opened. The hotel coordinator stood there with a paper in her hand, and she looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry to interrupt. We still do not have the replacement payment for tomorrow's ballroom balance. Mom stood so fast her chair tipped. That was handled. Ryan shook his head. No, it was. He turned to the coordinator. We are using the church hall after the ceremony. Please release the ballroom. Megan took his hand. The coordinator nodded. I'll confirm the cancellation. Mom looked from Ryan to Megan. You cannot be serious. Ryan bent down and lifted her chair. We can afford the church hall, but everyone is expecting this hotel. They are coming to see us get married. You will lose the deposit. We already lost it. Her voice cracked. All that work. Ryan looked at the statements. It was never ours. The coordinator left. Through the open door, I saw 2 hotel employees rolling a rack of white linens down the hall. A sign with Ryan and Megan's names was being removed from an easel. The consequence did not feel triumphant. It felt plain. That made it real, and I picked up the transfer agreement. Mom watched me. If you sign that, I have no role. You have no financial role. After everything I did? Yes. I signed my name. Nora signed as the receiving witness, then I handed her the donation ledger. The original would return to me after the room opened. Until then, the hospital foundation would keep it with the donor records. Mom reached for it one last time. I closed the cover before she touched it. The record goes with the promise, I said. Nora placed it in her bag. I took out my phone. The full accounting email was ready. It named every amount. It included the secured balance, recovered refunds, Ryan's repayment plan, and the permanent transfer to the hospital foundation. Mom saw the subject line. Please, she said. I looked at her. Please what? Do not send my name to everyone. You sign the checks. I will never live this down. The donors deserve to know who controlled their money. I am your mother. And I am Lucy's mother. I pressed send. My phone made no dramatic sound, and a small check mark appeared beside the message. The truth left the room before any of us did. The wedding happened the next afternoon in the church where Ryan and I had grown up. The reception moved to the fellowship hall. Volunteers set out round tables, and a friend played music from a laptop. Megan wore a simple ivory dress and looked relaxed, while Mom attended the ceremony in silence. She sat in the front row, and she did not give a speech. Ben and I stayed for dinner, hugged Ryan and Megan, and left before the dancing. I did not offer a toast, and I had already said what needed saying. The full accounting reached almost every donor that night, and some people were angry. No one argued that the wedding expenses were allowed. The hospital foundation created a public balance page, and vendor refunds appeared there. The page showed the cashier's check and every repayment. 1 week later, Mom signed an agreement. She transferred $12,000 from her savings. Ryan paid the remaining balance over several months. He never asked me to forgive the debt. He just paid it. Mom permanently lost all access to the fund. She also stepped away from the church finance committee after members asked whether she could still handle restricted money. Accountability did not require exile, but it did require distance, so Mom and I did not speak for 3 months. Then a letter arrived. It contained no defense. She wrote that she had treated grief like a debt Lucy owed the family. She wrote that she had protected Ryan from consequences and called it love. I did not answer right away. An apology can open a door, but it does not get the old key back. 7 months after the rehearsal dinner, the respite room opened. It was small: 2 soft chairs, 1 couch, a sink. 1 cabinet held stacks of meal vouchers. The child life cart stood beside the door with fresh paper, markers, and blue ribbons. The donation ledger rested in a glass case near the entrance. It was open to the page with the kindergarten class donation. The ribbon marker crossed the note about a room where moms could cry. Ben stood beside me, and Nora stood on my other side. Ryan and Megan came too, and they had been married quietly and seemed happier for it. Mom was not there. I had invited her under one condition: she could attend as Lucy's grandmother, not as the fund's founder or spokesperson. She said she was not ready. That was honest, and I could respect honest distance. A young mother entered the room while we were still gathering our things. Her son had just been admitted upstairs, and she looked at the couch, closed the door, and began to cry. No one asked her to explain. That was what the money had been for. Not flowers, not a band. Not proof that our family could still look beautiful under a chandelier. A door, a chair, a quiet place for someone carrying the worst day of her life. I touched the glass over Lucy's ledger and followed the blue ribbon to the last line. The promise was complete. Tell me what boundary you would have set. Could you rebuild trust after an apology like my mother? Or would the closed account stay closed forever?